Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Business of Becoming podcast. I'm your host, Lori Kennedy, and this is episode number 51. Want to know a fun fact about me? I won the Writers Award when I was in grade 8. I thought my teacher hated me. Turns out she was one of my biggest fans. Today, we are talking about copywriting, conscious copy, in fact, with Jennifer Hudye, the founder of Conscious Copy & Co. One of the most important skills you can cultivate is the skill of using words to motivate someone to take an action. And the action you most want them to take is to say yes to your invitation into transformation. Jen grew up in a town of 500 people in an entrepreneurial family. She's always been fascinated by the human psyche and what really motivates people to take action on the deepest level. She's worked with some of the most influential entrepreneurs to help them craft their messages so they feel understood. She believes that's what good marketing does. It helps people feel understood and guides them to take action. All of the resources we talk about on today's show can be found over at our show notes at thewbh.com/51. So without further ado, let's bring Jen to the show. Hey everybody, so excited to have this conversation today because the ability to use our words to initiate feelings and motivate people to take the desired action that we want them to take is such a critical part to growing really any business, but specifically a health and wellness business. And I have Jen with me, and we have worked on projects before. She's a phenomenal writer, but more than that too, she really understands from like a really heart-centered place how to use words to motivate people to become clients without feeling salesy, without that like high pressure yuckness.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll use the yuckness. That's like an official word. So welcome. I'm so happy to have you. And I know we're going to get into some really good stuff today.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
So for everybody who doesn't know who you are, why don't we just do like a little recap of who you are and maybe even what copywriting is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I am the founder of Conscious Copy & Co., and we help the top coaches, experts, consultants in the online business space in really crafting copy, which I'll explain what that means in a moment, that really connects and converts. And really what I do is what I believe. And what I believe is the number one, like the ultimate freedom is when we're truthful to ourselves and we're able to express that truth. And the ultimate freedom in entrepreneurship is when we are able to express our truth through our business. And I see that there's just this massive shift happening right now where more than ever, it is so important to be authentic and transparent in the selling process and in the marketing process. And so with Conscious Copy, that's our mission and our goal is to make it not unusual for people to be selling with truth and authenticity. For really, first, right now, it's like the competitive advantage, but we want it to become a norm. And so for people who don't know what copy is, I define copy as written words that sell. And I define conscious copy as written words that sell with integrity and authenticity. Because we can be a good salesperson, but we can be manipulative. But we can be a phenomenal salesperson and still be leading with just truth and transparency, which feels a lot better. And so, I mean, copy is, any written words. We're speaking in copy right now, but simply copy is taking that and putting it into written words. So it's guiding people to a specific action.
Yeah, and I love that. And I became really interested in, and I guess an informal student, I would say, of copywriting when I first had to write a sales page. Mm-hmm. Because I enjoy writing. If I had any title at all, it would actually be a writer, not a business coach or anything like that, because I write every single day. And that's, what I could spend my time doing. And what I started to learn is that there are some key aspects
Mm-hmm.
that translate if you look at, Apple ads or Nike ads, or even like anything in the, not specific to our online space, but, traditional businesses, and then bringing that over into the online space with sales pages and webinars. There are some, like some, consistent fundamentals
Mm-hmm.
of copy that are really critical, that, at least in my experience, can be used for like good or evil, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. I also think there's a big difference between content and copy, which I'll have people reach out to us and say, "Hey, we'd really love for you to write a blog post." And I'm like, "You don't want us to write a blog post because we're really we're really valuable, but we're going to charge a lot because what we do is it's selling in print, which is the most valuable skill. Like I believe there's two of the most valuable skills in business. One is being able to write in print, and one's being able, write through selling through writing, and one is selling through speaking.
Yeah.
So content is simply just information to educate someone. And
Yes.
you don't really care whether whatever happens. It may just be educating them and entertaining them or giving them information. Copy is that written, like the whole goal of all of the words is to drive someone to a particular outcome. And in my belief, it's not always the outcome to buy, it's for them to make a decision. So in anything that you do, you're trying to get them to make a decision. Do they move forward or do they move back? That's all it is.
Yes. And I love the distinction, and I'm so glad that we went there, because people in the health and wellness industry are taught to write content, right? We know we have to do social media content. We know we have to do blogs. We know we have to do Facebook Lives, but they're not taught copy. And there's a huge difference between educating and selling, right?
Oh
And
my gosh, yeah.
what I always sort of, it's like I also give the differentiator between teaching and coaching, right? Teaching is repetitive. It's the same thing over and over again. Coaching is the act of like moving them through something, right? To get to the outcome that they want. It's the same thing. Content is repetitive. It's generic. It's not personalized necessarily. I guess it can be if you're a personal brand, but it's, it could be a dime a dozen, right? From a content perspective. But from a sales copy perspective, it's almost like, at least this is how I think about it, it's like you have to reverse engineer based on the outcome that you want. It's the same with coaching, right? You can't coach someone if you don't know what the outcome is, versus content, you can just write. Like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Right?
Totally. Yeah, I think you'll appreciate this too. I came up with this maybe 6 months or so ago. I say that there's 3 types of copy. So on the far left spectrum, there's internet marketery copy.
Yes.
It's a very technical term. And that's the stuff that you see online that's like really just like hard hitting, really just kind of generic, like the 7 simple slimy ways to make $1 million without having to lift a finger, and lots of NLP tactics, lots of persuasion tactics, and some of those are very valid, but like just kind of using them in a really like hard hitting direct way. So you read it and you're kind of like, whoa, like feeling very confronting. And then on the far right scale is what I call hope-based copy. And that is, there's 2 types of hope-based copy. There's the person who's writing their copy and it's very like fluffy, where it's just like words and it's painting this picture and it's kind of like a story, but it's not really going anywhere. And then you wonder why people don't buy. And then another one is like the technological copy, where you're so far into your craft. Say you're like a doctor or a healer or something, and you're using all of these technical terms, and you're really describing like the process that it takes to do something rather than the outcome, and you're losing a lot of people. It's very heady. And then in the middle, there's conscious copy. So I believe that there's a way where we can use the fundamentals of persuasion and selling and persuasion and selling, and but also still be really truthful and educate people and like educate them to make a decision.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, that is, at least in my experience, knowing the words to say that isn't like educating copy. It's not hope-based copy, but it's also not like pressure-based tactics, but it's coming from a place of like pure integrity and pure service, but also using some of those very valid fundamentals of like persuasion and, you know, that kind of stuff. And I know that you came up with 5, are they fundamentals? What are they? You want to tell us a little bit about what they are?
Yeah, the 5 fundamentals of conscious copy. And I'm so excited because your tribe will literally be hearing this first. I've been creating new content for a workshop that we have coming up, and I really just took like my entire bag of tricks, and I'm like, if I was to boil it down to like 5 fundamentals of writing a piece of copy, what would it look like? Like whether that's a sales page, an email, even if it's a video and you're like crafting it for a video, the 5 fundamentals. So let's
do it. Let's jump in. Maybe just list them all first.
Okay.
And then we can go through it. And I just want to sort of add like an aside to this so that people don't disqualify themselves. You don't necessarily need to be a good writer to implement some of these tactics, right? Because a lot of people disqualify themselves and think like, oh, I'm not a good writer. Like writing emails and blog posts is like the bane of my existence.
Totally.
And I find that writing copy is actually much easier. I find that. So please, if you're listening to this, like don't disqualify yourself. This is a skill that you must learn. Like if you want to be successful, you need to learn how to use words to motivate people to the outcome that you want.
Yes. I'm so glad that you shared that, Lori. And like really, really short laser story is when I first started, before I had a copy agency, I actually had a fitness coaching company. And I started, learning about marketing and started studying how to write email autoresponders, like a little bit kind of on the most basic level. And I really got into it, and I never considered myself a writer. And still to this day, it's ironic because like you shared, like you consider yourself a writer. I don't really consider myself a writer, which is so odd, I guess. But I became really good at copy because I can really understand people. I can meet them exactly where they're at. And that's just like always been something that I've had of being like compassionate, empathetic, like stepping into their world. And I'm like, oh, it's just really stepping into their world and then guiding them to where they want to go. And it was even after I had like Bedros as a client and some other big names that reached out to me saying like, hey, we would like your help in writing our copy, that I was like, it was actually Joe Polish that was like, you're a copywriter. I'm like, I don't think I'm a copywriter. I'm just like, doing this online business thing. And he's like, no, you're a copywriter. So yeah, if you feel like, okay, I'm not a writer, I'm there with you. I felt the exact same. And I still do. I look at myself like in the transformation business.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and I'm thank you for sharing that. And I think, people would look at me and they'll be like, you're a business coach. I'm like, nope. Like, I don't feel like that. Like, I feel more comfortable, like with my laptop and a Google Doc, just writing my experiences. That is my like sweet spot. Of course I can teach business, and I do, but my sweet spot would be sitting and writing. So you don't have to like be a trained writer or have any experience, but what we're about to go through, you can look at what you have. You can look at your sales page. You can look at the way that you're doing Facebook Lives even, and add these elements in, because these are tactics. These are strategies. These are very critical pieces of business that for sure we didn't learn in any of our designations, for sure, but also too, they might not come naturally to us because we're so taught to be clinicians and educators. So yeah, okay, let's hit it.
Let's hit it. Okay, cool. So the 5 fundamentals to conscious copy, I'm going to go through all 5 of them, and then we can dive in just a little more of what they really are. So the very first one is capture attention. The second one is connect emotionally. Third is cancel objections. 4 is commute to your offer. And 5 is conversion. So going back to the very first one, capture attention. This is such a critical piece, no matter whether you're writing a sales page, an email, a Facebook Live, a video. You need to capture the attention in your headline or the very first thing that you say. And you want to hook the reader, the viewer, the listener into paying attention. And the way that you can do that is through creating a pattern interrupt. So they're going throughout their day, say they're on Facebook and they're scrolling and they see, your Facebook Live. What does that first line say of your Facebook Live, and how can it capture their attention? So a couple of different ways that you can do this. And just, some basic ones are like saying X ways to get their desired outcome. 3 ways to lose weight without cutting carbs, or 5 ways to write a better sales page. Another one is X steps to get what they want without getting what they don't want. And that can be like 5 ways to lose weight without exercising.
Right. And with this first one, which is capture attention, is that where their story comes into play, or is that the next one?
That's the next one, but you could also use it as a headline. So actually one that I wrote down here as an example is we're doing a sales page for one of our clients, the tapping solution. And they have like such a phenomenal story of how they literally used tapping to that helped them get $1 million out of debt. And so we use that as a headline too, because that's a pattern interrupt and it captures attention. So the headline, I believe, was like the technique that helped me get out of $1 million in debt. So it can be related to your story, but you want to you see how that it's like, what technique?
So it sounds very like curiosity based, right? Versus I'm just, 5 ways to meditate, right? Like that, I think would be more like just an educational based piece of content. It's not copy, right? If we're going to sort of differentiate, right? It could be like that's not really going to capture anyone's attention necessarily, but it could be, if we were to, take that example one step further, it could be like 5 ways to meditate, even if you can't get your brain to stop. Like that's right. Something more attention grabbing than just 5 ways to meditate.
Right. That's such a good example. So really thinking being outcome based. And what is it that they really want? What is it that they really don't want? And how can you play on that in the pattern interrupt?
That's good.
Awesome. Yeah. So you get to play around with it, and have fun with it. There's so many other different ones.
So is that something that they would use for their blog posts? Is that how they should title their blog posts? Is that how they should title their Facebook Lives?
So I mean, it depends, because it depends on what is the outcome that they're trying to do. If the blog post and that's content, and if they're just trying to educate people, then I mean, it's like it doesn't, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but it's different than if at the end of that blog post they're trying to sell something. Because we always want to remember that copy is like there's some sort of conversion that needs to happen. So you can play around with this. With blog posts though, like a blog post that's 5 ways to meditate, that still actually may work. But you could really juice it up by being like 5 ways to meditate, with 5 unique ways to meditate without sitting down cross-legged.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay.
Cool. So 1, capture attention. 2 is connect emotionally. And this is something that I see a lot of people miss in their copy. They just jump right to their offer. I saw sales pages before where literally the title is like a 12-month program to help you be healthier. And it's like, that's so abrupt.
Yeah.
And my friend Lisa Sasevich says this phrase, like, don't sell the airplane, sell the destination. And so you just want to remember throughout, like, what is the destination that they're trying to get to, and really make sure that you understand them first. And that's where this connect emotionally step is so critical. So you really want to understand, first off, where are they at right now? And where is it that they want to go? So where are they at right now? What are the problems that they're facing right now around this area that you can help them with? What situations are they in? And then where do they want to go? So where they want to go, what does it look like? What does success look like for them? What's the payoff going to be once they get there? And the most important component of this is this all needs to be in their language, in their viewpoint.
Yes.
In their language, in their viewpoint, because you may see their problem as like, oh yeah, they have hormone issues, which is very different than the way they see their problem, which is they keep gaining weight and they don't know why.
Yes.
2 totally different things. And if you go from your lens and not from their lens, you're going to miss them.
Yes. One of the examples that I give to my people all the time is you don't get married on a first date. So if you put like, the name of your program as the headline, and then right underneath it's like join now, I'm like, you just proposed like on a first date. Like, you're a little crazy. Who does that? Right? Totally. You don't get married on a first date. There's a courting period. There's like a nurturing period that has to take place even within that sales page where you're like building rapport and you're like building, you're showing them you've walked in their shoes and stuff. But I love the viewpoint. I give the example of leaky gut, like for a practitioner who wants to like, run a program on leaky gut. Well, most people don't know that they have leaky gut, right? They're bloated, right? So if you're promoting leaky gut and they don't know who you are and they've never, and they somehow stumbled upon you via the mechanism of bloating, they're going to be like, well, I don't have leaky gut, and it's not going to result in a sale. Yeah, so you need to
meet them where they're at first, which is this component, like meet them exactly where they're at. One of the famous copywriters, his name's Robert Collier, says, enter the conversation that's already going on in your prospect's mind. Yes. So what is that conversation that they're going? They're waking up and they're like, I'm bloated and damn, like I cut out dairy, I cut out gluten, I cut out sugar and I'm still bloated, or, I have no idea what's going on. Am I not drinking enough water? There all of these questions are going on. And if you don't answer those questions first, you can, I'm not saying that you don't educate them on leaky gut, but you meet them where they're at first.
Yes.
And then you guide them to like, hey, I'm going to share with you what's going on. And then I'm going to educate you on like what leaky gut is. And that's so funny that you brought up that example, because I remember I heard a speaker talk on a stage at an event I was part of, and she like led with leaky gut the whole time. And I was like so disconnected because I was like, I don't even know what that is. That's not me. Fine. And then like 2 years later, I like kept hearing about it. I'm like, what are all these people talking about leaky gut? And it wasn't until I found a marketing piece where someone actually educated, like, what is like, you know, are you experiencing bloating? Like, what is leaky gut? And like actually educated me. I was like, oh, that's what everyone's been talking about. I had no idea. And I just wrote it off as that's not me, because if it was me, I would know what it was called and I would know this was a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that's one of the reasons that people don't get conversions, right? Is because they're not having the conversation that the prospect is having. They're having it from a clinical symptomatic place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not how, you know, I call them the muggles. Like, that's not how the muggles experience it, right? They experience it from the place of their own perspective. Well, we're already 20, 30, 100 steps ahead, right? We're educated. We know this already. And so we have to really go back to that mindset of, I'm bloated and how does that affect my life? And, you know, trying to search for like why they're bloated in the first place. Yeah.
So with that, it's a lot of people will ask me, and I get so many emails from my list being like, well, how do I find out where they're at and what their problems are and what it is that they want? And I have this magical response that is going to blow all of your mind, which is ask them.
Yeah.
Like, ask them and record it. And I'm always all ears. Like, when it comes to my my clients and my potential clients, I'm always like, what questions are they asking me? When we hop on a sales call and they come in and they say that this is their problem, I'm recording that so I know how I need to write and how to enter that conversation.
Well, I remember when you helped me with the Wellness Business Academy sales page, I think we were on the call for 90 minutes talking about my ideal client, right? Talking about their perspective, and because it's not from my perspective anymore, right? It's their perspective. So I know that, you know, really being able to step inside of the ideal client's shoes. And I want to point out too, for people listening, you might think that you are your ideal client, but you forget just how far you've come. Like, because you're not quote unquote perfect, or you're still struggling with certain things, you think you're in the same spot as your ideal client. You're not, because you actually know what's wrong with you. You understand, you already value health. Most people that are going to acquire services are like, you know, you're light years ahead of them. We just don't realize that we are. And so they're not able to come from that place of entering the conversation that's inside their head, because at this point, you know, the clinician or the professional, it's a different conversation. We just don't value that it's a different conversation because we're still, you know, sort of struggling with our own health or whatever. But it's a very different place, and that can throw off conversions huge.
I'm so glad you brought this up. I think it'll really land.
Yeah. Okay. So we've done capture attention, connect emotionally. Let's talk about objections. So cancel objections, specifically the money objection, because
this
is
my favorite one. Yeah. So you want to get really clear of what are the top objections that your potential clients are having as to, number one, not just for purchasing your product or service, but what are the objections that they have as to why they haven't gotten help in this area in the first place.
Ooh, that's good.
So it may be, you know, one of the honest objections is they don't understand, like they feel confused. Right. And a confused mind never buys. And so they're feeling so overwhelmed with all the information out there. Another one is like they don't know what they don't know. And so they don't even know that they have a problem. Therefore, they don't even know that there's a solution, which those people are sometimes a little more challenging to like convert quickly because there is that education process. And there's also going to be the objection of this is going to be hard. Like, especially when it comes to your tribe, Lori, of what they're really helping with. Like, yeah, this is their patients, their clients are going to say, this is going to be hard. It's going to take a long time. There's too much to do. What if I don't see results? It's going to be too expensive to invest all of this money into my health. And so there's a really powerful way to answer all of these objections. So I would get first really clear of what are the top 3 objections that your clients have as to why they haven't gotten help with this in the first place. And now how can we answer each one of those objections in a way that's actually educating them through it. So that is when I'm writing copy, when my team is writing copy, we're creating the content not to be like, what's the content for this? We're like, what are the objections? And let's craft the copy around that. And by answering those objections, we're actually educating the people through them. Now, by the time that we get to, step 4 around talking about the offer, they're coming in with a clean mind, because any of those voices in the back of their mind saying like, I can't do this, it's too hard, I don't have enough money, etc., have all been answered.
Yeah.
And so how can you educate them through it? And so an example of this may be if they're like, this is going to cost way too much for me to invest in my health, or investing in my health is very expensive, then there's 3 different approaches you can take. One is you can educate them through facts and statistics. 2 is you can educate them through story. And 3, you can educate them through like their perspective in their world. So you may find a stat that shows that, X amount of people, X percentage of people in Canada get sick at least 3 times a year, and they end up, I know with the healthcare system there, it's a little bit different than the US, but like adding up like how much money they end up spending on just trying to get healthy again, and then how much work they take off and how much that adds up. Put it in the perspective, like, okay, you can either be proactive and it's gonna, on average, it's this much to invest in your health in long term, or you can be reactive and you're gonna, pay 2x that when you're just trying to get healthy, being in reactive mode. So now it opens up their world, being like, oh my gosh, okay, I was thinking that this is an expense, but now I'm really looking at it as an investment.
Right. Compared
to, me going to have to go get all these tests is actually more expensive. So that could be a way to answer an objection.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've done, which has been really helpful for me in the Facebook Lives and in the webinars, is actually frame them as questions. Like to say, is anyone, like, just bring it out into the open. Like, is anyone feeling nervous about investing? Right? And then they'd be like, yes, and it's easier to do obviously on a webinar or Facebook Live with the intent to sell. But I find for me, when I can call it out into the open, it becomes a lot easier, right? For me to like discuss it and really break down, where those objections are actually coming from so that I can overcome them.
So good. Yeah. And I think that's so powerful what you do of like hiding in plain sight. That's what I like to call that, where it's like so transparent.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been really helpful also too. Just to, look, like, at least for me, I know that objections are coming from a fear-based place. So whether they've tried and failed before and they don't actually believe that they can do it, right? And so it's coming from, well, what if I invest this money and I can't do it? It's not, will the program work for me? Because that question really is, what if I can't do it because I haven't been able to do it thus far?
Mm-hmm.
And the money thing, it's the shame around, well, I'm going to invest this money, and because I haven't been able to achieve these results on my own, I know I'm going to invest this money and I'm probably going to fail, and that's embarrassing because then people are going to be like, oh, you spent all this money. And so if you can do what we said before and like put yourself into the place of your ideal client, that conversation that they're having in their head, what are all the fears? That's been really helpful for me, is to be like, okay, what are all the fears and the like self-doubt and the insecurity that are stimulating these objections, so that
Mm-hmm.
we can just bring it out into the open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so powerful. And there's a few reasons why people won't buy. One is they don't believe in trust in you. One, they don't believe in trust in themselves. They don't believe in the process, and they don't understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So how do we, moving on to the next one, commute
Yeah.
to your offer? So we've dealt with the objections. We sort of raised them throughout. Now, transitioning to the sale, like that's always the hardest part. So how would we do that?
Mm. Yeah, so I would say that a lot of times we feel like we're transitioning to the sale. And in my belief is we started selling from the very first step,
Fair
which
enough.
is capturing the attention. Like
Yeah.
when we're connecting with emotionally, we're already enrolling them. When we're canceling up those objections, we're already enrolling them. So I just see like the commute to the offer is just like another piece of this entire puzzle, where it's like, okay, I shared with you, like, I understand where you're at, where you want to go. I understand all of the blocks that are in the way of really getting you there. And now I'd like to introduce to you a new opportunity for really the vehicle that's going to help you get to where you want to go in a really like safe way.
Yeah.
So something that I see often in the market is we tend to try sell so many things around our offer. So I really want you to think of like, what is your new opportunity? So the thing that's different, like people don't want better, they want new. So how can you create yours as this new approach? Because if you say like, this is just another diet, they're going to say this is just another diet. But if you approach it to being like, no, this is brand new, this is a completely different way to look at it. Now they're not bringing in all their baggage thinking, well, I tried every other diet out there. This is
Right.
just one of the same. And so what is the one thing, like when it comes to your offer, what is the one kind of overarching, like it could be like your product or your service is the one thing that you're really offering, the big idea. And make sure as you're going through it and explaining it, you're making sure that they really understand it and they believe that you communicate it in a way where they can see that they can do this. And so oftentimes too, when we're talking about our offer, again, going back to that quote, like a lot of times we sell the airplane, not the destination. So even when we're talking about our offer, we want to focus on what is the destination that we're helping them get to. And that's like 80% of the conversation. And then the 20% is like the deliverables. Like you're going to get, these calls, these videos, these worksheets. But so when you're crafting your offer, there's three components that are really helpful in doing this. So the first one is write down all of your features. So the features are the actual tangible things that you're going to be delivering to them. So it could be, a 4-day live in-person workshop and a 12-module course and 3 coaching calls per month or whatever be. Those are features, the actual thing. And then after you write all those down, you want to write right next to it, what is the advantage of this? So that's the second thing out of the 3. What's the advantage of this feature? How is it going to help them? So if it's like a 4-day live workshop. It's like, this is going to be very experiential and a hands-on experience. That's the advantage. So you're going to be getting it live, and it's going to be very experiential one-on-one. The third area that you want to add after that, there's the feature advantage, is the benefit. So what is the benefit of this? So the benefit is you're going to learn from the leading expert in health and wellness in this area. And it's going to help you so that once you walk away from those 4 days, you have a clear game plan that's like unshakable in no matter what type of lifestyle you have. So another example of this would be a feature in a car is like the actual air vents. That's the feature. And then the advantage is the air vents blow out cool air. The benefit is when it's 34 degrees Celsius outside and humid, you have a cool car to sit into and you're not like sweating balls.
Yeah.
So how can you like take your offer, list out all the features, then do the advantage and the benefit, and that's how you can really craft it to make it so powerful.
Yeah, I always use the example of like, people are not buying a Facebook group or meal plans because those things in and of themselves are devoid of value, right? Like no one's like, even coaching calls or sessions with you, it's a phone call, right? So that's the feature of it. So what's the benefit of being a part of a Facebook group? What's the benefit of getting meal plans? Right? What's the value in getting a follow along video? Right? For fitness, like it's just a video in and of itself holds no value whatsoever. So if you're only just ever selling the features, like, yeah, you should buy my program for $9.97 because it has meal plans and a Facebook group and this and that and the other thing, it's like, who cares? Like those things aren't valuable to me. Right? Those are just the features of, it's like the seats on the plane. Those things are the seats on the plane, right? You need to have like the drink and the seat and the movie. No one's paying, $1,000 to fly to Hawaii for the movie and the seat. They're going for Hawaii, right? So that's the way that I like to think about it. And when I prompt my people, I'm like, okay, so what's the benefit of the Facebook group? Tell me why I should care that I get a Facebook group.
Yeah.
How is it going to help me to get results?
Yeah, it always needs to be that like destination or outcome focused.
Yeah.
So good.
Okay, perfect. So now we have the last one.
Yes.
Conversion.
So ask for the sale or ask for something. And it's so important, no matter in the copy that you're writing, is to train your tribe to take action on something. So even if you're not selling something, say in the moment, maybe it's just an email that's nurturing before the sale, you still want to add a clear call to action. Do you want them to respond? Do you want them to click a link? Do you want them to join a group? Like, what is the one thing you want to do? And just one thing. Every piece of copy should have only one, like a main call to action, especially if you're trying to sell something. So some other important components here is, number one, making it crystal clear. 2 is, if you are selling something, adding limiters and bonuses while still being in integrity. So I see people online and they will be like, this ebook, there's only 30 copies left.
Right. And you're like, bullshit, it's an ebook.
Yeah, what is an ebook? 2, I can see that this website has been up for like 3 years and you haven't changed it. So that breaks trust, right? But I'm a total, I've done this so many times before myself, where I've actually had limiters, I just haven't brought them up, which is actually doing a disservice to me and the potential client. Because if I have, or for example, like I just had a potential client who we had a conversation and I just shared, I was like, hey, for the next couple of months, we're actually filling up really quickly on projects. And And they were like, okay, yeah, we'll be able to get this back to you by Monday. And then by the time Monday rolled around, we literally like were booked up for now a couple months. And they were like, well, why didn't you let me know like that, there was only one spot? And I recognized I could have been even more clear of like, hey, if you don't make a decision by tomorrow, like, I'm sorry, but that's it. So in your group programs, sharing like, hey, like a limiter is, hey, there's only 20 spots. If there's only 20 spots, and even if you are just starting to fill up your workshop, like bring it up, or your coaching program, say, there's only going to be 20 spots and I don't know when they're all going to fill up.
Yeah.
And that creates urgency for people, because it's also your responsibility to create urgency for them to take action, whether it's a yes or a no.
Yes. Agreed. Totally. And people say like, do I have to put a deadline? I'm like, yes, people need to be given a reason to buy. I remember the purse that I have actually now. I'm not someone who like wears designer labels or like even knows what they are or cares. However, I had this purse for 10 years. It was like this ratty purse. I don't really often carry a purse, but I was in a mall and it was, I don't even remember what month it was, but Michael Kors was having a sale. And apparently Michael Kors stuff doesn't go on sale very often. And it was the last day of the sale and it was 50% off. And this purse was like $300 or something normally. And so it was like $150. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to buy the damn purse. And I was like, okay, well, I can't come. Like, I was like, should I? I don't know. And I was like, ugh, sale's ending today. Like I have like, basically it was 4:00. The mall closed at 5. I'm like, I have an hour. And I bought the purse because one, the sale gave me a reason to buy. And two, there was a deadline. Right. So for me, it's like, people need to be given a reason to buy. That's why coupons work. That's why they have expiry dates. Like, right. They need to be given a reason to buy, and there needs to be a deadline, especially I think when it comes to health and wellness. I mean, I don't know anyone who woke up and, one morning and was like, I really want to transform my whole lifestyle and not eat any of the foods that I love. And I'm going to work out every day. And I'm so excited about it. Like said no one ever. Right. Like, I mean, maybe some people want to like become healthier, but no one really wants to dramatically transform the way that they eat. Right. Even if they're so sick, there's still like dread around it. There's still this like, oh yeah, I know I need to change what I eat in order to feel better. So we need to give people that hard deadline and we need to give them that reason to buy, because they're not buying a luxury car. Right? They're changing their habits, which is really hard. Really hard.
Yeah. So it's like you get to create that deadline, and then they also may have deadlines themselves as well. I know, like for myself, I'm like about to do, like at the gym that I go to, it's like a challenge, and it starts next week. And I'm like, oh, like I have my event coming up, and then I'm going to a music festival. Like so I've created urgency for myself as well. So your clients may be coming in too with an urgency of like, hey, this is when we need it. So you get to like heighten that. And so on a sales page, you may not know that, but it's also playing. That's why, health and wellness challenges work so well leading up to summer or in the new year. It's because people have created their own urgency around it. And so you get to play on that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing. Well, these were all so helpful, and we'll definitely outline each one of them and we'll link to them in the show notes. Thank you so much for this. This was honestly, I'm sure people listening are like ferociously writing notes. Where can people go to find out more about you?
You can head over to consciouscopy.co. So it's consciouscopy.co, and we have, like on our homepage, we have a couple really, really powerful free gifts where we have the perfect welcome email cheat sheet, which if you don't know what to write in that very first email, it literally is a template. Also Conscious Copy scorecard. So if you're not sure how well your copy is, maybe you're like, I write copy, but I'm not sure how good it is. You can just download this scorecard and literally it'll help you rate yourself so you know what components you're missing. And then the effective email cheat sheet. So like everything to include when you write an email. So you can check out those. Those are all free, as well as we got lots of awesome like articles on there that are just really helpful when it comes to copy.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely link to that and all of the places that you can find Jen in the show notes. Thanks so much, everybody, for
Thank you.
listening. Thanks so much for that amazing conscious copy lesson. We will talk to you all again soon. Bye.